It was 3 a.m. of 23 September 2019 when they brought Liam McGrath into my operating theater. Two men in balaclavas, black Range Rover, no ambulance, no police. They laid him on my table in the private clinic on Antrim Road, blood soaking through his shirt, 3 bullet wounds across his chest. The taller one pointed a Glock at my head and said, "You save him, doctor, or your family joins him." I'm Dr. Patrick O'Sullivan. For 28 years, I was a trauma surgeon at Royal Victoria Hospital in West Belfast. I took the Hippocratic Oath in 1991, the same year my cousin Emma was murdered. I swore to save lives, not to judge them. But mate, when you're standing over the man who killed the person you loved most in the world, when his life is literally in your hands, you realize that some oaths are easier to swear than to keep. What I did in the next 4 hours haunts me every single day. Because it wasn't just about saving a life. It was about deciding whether a terrorist deserves mercy when he showed none to others. But what happened after I removed those bullets, brother, was something I could never have imagined. Because saving Liam, the executioner McGrath, didn't end that night. It was only the beginning of a nightmare that would cost me everything I'd ever worked for. I was born in West Belfast in 1965, Catholic family, 5 kids. My father worked at the shipyard. My mother cleaned offices in the city centre. We lived on the Falls Road, in the shadow of the peace walls that separated us from the Protestant Shankill. Growing up during the Troubles wasn't childhood, mate. It was survival. I was 7 years old the first time I saw a man shot in the street, 14 when British Army soldiers raided our house at 4 a.m., looking for IRA weapons we didn't have, 16 when they bombed the pub where my uncle drank every Friday. But my parents taught us something different. "Patrick," my mother would say, "violence only breeds more violence. If you want to fight for Ireland, do it by saving Irish lives, not taking them." So I studied. While my mates were throwing stones at armored vehicles, I was studying biology. While they were painting murals of hunger strikers, I was applying to medical school. Queen's University Belfast accepted me in 1984. My family scraped together every penny to send me. It was their dream, not just mine. The first O'Sullivan to go to university. Emma was my cousin, 2 years younger than me. Beautiful girl, bright, kind, full of hope despite everything around us. She wanted to be a teacher. She believed education could heal Northern Ireland's wounds. Lord, if she could see what I became. We were close, Emma and I. Saturday afternoons at her house, Sunday dinners with both our families. She was the sister I never had. In August 1991, Emma was 21 years old. She was getting married to David, a Protestant lad from East Belfast. It was controversial, mate. Catholic girl marrying a Protestant. Both families were nervous, but Emma didn't care. "Love doesn't see religion, Patrick," she told me. "If David and I can make this work, maybe there's hope for everyone else." The wedding was planned for 16 August 1991. St. Peter's Cathedral. Small ceremony, just family. But on 15 August, the day before the wedding, Emma went shopping in Belfast city centre with her bridesmaids. They stopped at a cafe on Royal Avenue for lunch, celebrating, laughing, planning the next day. At 14:23, a car bomb exploded outside the cafe. The real IRA claimed responsibility. Their target was a police recruitment office 2 buildings down. But the bomb was too big, mate, too powerful. The blast took out the entire street. Emma died instantly. So did her 3 bridesmaids, and 11 other innocent people. I was doing my surgical residency at the Royal Victoria when they brought the casualties in. 14 wounded, 6 critical. I worked 18 hours straight, trying to save whoever I could. but Emma was already gone. They identified her body by her engagement ring. I held my aunt as she collapsed in the hospital corridor. I watched my uncle, a man who'd never cried in his life, break down completely. I stood at Emma's funeral 3 days later, staring at a closed casket, because there wasn't enough left to have an open one. And I swore, mate. I swore to God, to Emma's memory, to everyone, that I'd dedicate my life to saving people, to preventing families from feeling what we felt. That oath kept me going for 28 years. The police investigation went nowhere. They arrested 3 suspects, but no one talked. The real IRA protected their own. Within 6 months, the case went cold. Emma's killer walked free. And I had to live with that knowledge every single day. After Emma's death, I threw myself into work. Finished my residency, top of my class. Became a consultant trauma surgeon at the Royal by 1996. Specialized in gunshot wounds, blast injuries, the kind of trauma that defined Belfast. I got married in 1998. Claire, a nurse from the Royal. We had 2 children, Aoife in 2000, Killian in 2003. We bought a house in South Belfast, away from the peace walls. Tried to build a normal life. The Good Friday Agreement in 1998 brought peace. Sort of. The Troubles officially ended. The IRA decommissioned their weapons. We all pretended Northern Ireland was healed. But mate, wounds like ours don't heal with treaties. They just go underground. Dissident Republican groups rejected the peace agreement. The real IRA became the new IRA, smaller, more extreme, still committed to violence, still setting off bombs, still killing, and still protected by people in the community who remembered the old days. In 2015, I started getting threats. Anonymous phone calls. Dr. O'Sullivan, we know where your kids go to school. We know Claire works night shifts on Thursdays. I reported it to the PSNI. They said they'd look into it. Nothing happened. Then in March 2017, a patient came to my clinic. Private consultation. Gunshot wound to the shoulder. Said he'd been caught in crossfire in a pub fight. But I knew gunshot wounds, mate. This wasn't random. This was a punishment shooting. The kind the paramilitaries do to people who cross them. I treated him, removed the bullet, reported it to the police as required by law. 2 weeks later, my car was firebombed outside our house at 2 a.m. No one was hurt, but the message was clear. Stop reporting. Stop asking questions. Claire was terrified. The kids didn't understand why Daddy's car was burning. I told them it was an accident, but I knew. The new IRA was watching me, and they wanted me to know it. On 22 September 2019, at 23:47, my phone rang. Unknown number. The voice was calm, measured, terrifying. Dr. O'Sullivan, tomorrow night we'll be bringing someone to your private clinic. 3 gunshot wounds. You'll save his life. You won't call the police. You won't ask questions. And you won't tell anyone this conversation happened. I should have hung up. I should have called the PSNI immediately. But the voice continued. If you refuse, or if you contact the police, we'll visit St. Bridget's Primary School on Tuesday morning. Your daughter Aoife is in year 6, isn't she? The one with the red backpack? My blood froze. Do you understand, doctor? I understood. At 3:17 the next morning they arrived. 2 men in balaclavas. The black Range Rover parked in the alley behind my clinic. They carried the patient in, laid him on my operating table. He was unconscious. 3 gunshot wounds, 1 through the shoulder, tattoo in the chest. Lots of blood, but he was alive. "You have 4 hours, doctor. We'll be outside." They left me alone with him. I started the IV, administered anesthetic, prepared for surgery. My hands were shaking, but I'd done this 1,000 times. Trauma surgery. Remove the bullets, repair the damage, save the life. But as I cleaned the blood from his chest, I saw it. A tattoo on his left forearm, a phoenix rising from flames. Underneath, in Gaelic script, Chokfai Ar La, our day will come. The same tattoo that was on one of the suspects in Emma's murder case, the one they released for lack of evidence. I checked his face. Older now, heavier, scarred. But I recognized him from the police photos I'd memorized 15 years ago. Liam McGrath, the man they called the Executioner, the new IRA's chief enforcer, the man suspected of at least 20 murders, the man who planned the Royal Avenue bombing that killed Emma. And he was on my table, bleeding out, completely at my mercy. Lord, if you're listening, this wasn't fair. This wasn't right. I stood there for 10 minutes, watching his heart rate on the monitor. 92 beats per minute. Blood pressure, 90/60. Dropping slowly. I could do nothing. Let him bleed out. Tell the men outside he was too far gone when he arrived. No one would question it. Emma's killer would be dead. Justice, finally, after 28 years. But then I heard my mother's voice. "Violence only breeds more violence, Patrick." And I heard Emma. "If David and I can make this work, maybe there's hope for everyone else." And I remembered my oath. First, do no harm. I started the surgery. 4 hours, 3 bullets removed, 2 liters of blood replaced, collapsed lung reinflated. Internal bleeding stopped. At 7:23, his vital signs stabilized. He'd live. The men in balaclavas came back at 7:30. "Is he alive?" "Yes, but he needs hospital care, antibiotics, monitoring, at least." "We'll handle it." They loaded him onto a stretcher, carried him out to the Range Rover, and drove away. I stood in my operating theater, covered in the blood of Emma's killer, and I broke down completely. I saved him. I saved the man who murdered my cousin. I had justice in my hands, and I let it slip away. Claire found me 3 hours later, still in my surgical scrubs, sitting on the floor. "Patrick, what happened?" I couldn't tell her. I couldn't tell anyone. For 6 months I lived in silence. The guilt ate me alive, mate. Every night I dreamed of Emma's funeral. Every morning I woke up hating myself. But I told no one, because those men knew where my children went to school. In March 2020, PSNI detectives showed up at my house. They'd received an anonymous tip about an illegal surgery at my clinic. They wanted to know if I'd treated anyone without reporting it. I denied everything. No record of the surgery existed. I'd cleaned the theater perfectly. There was no evidence. But the detectives weren't stupid. Dr. O'Sullivan, "We know the paramilitaries use doctors like you. We know they threaten families. If you're being coerced, we can protect you." Could they? Could they really protect Aoife and Killian from men who'd bombed cafes full of civilians? I told them nothing. In July 2020, everything changed. Liam McGrath was arrested during a raid in Derry. Police found weapons, explosives, and detailed plans for attacks across Belfast. His trial began in January 2021. The prosecution's case was solid. 15 years of terrorism, 20 suspected murders, dozens of bombings. But during the trial, McGrath's defense lawyer called me as a witness. They knew. Somehow they knew about that night in September. Dr. O'Sullivan, did you treat Liam McGrath for gunshot wounds on 23 September 2019? The courtroom went silent. The judge, the jury, the prosecution, everyone staring at me. If I said yes, I'd be admitting to treating a terrorist without reporting it. Conspiracy, perverting the course of justice. I'd lose my medical license, probably go to prison. If I said no, I'd be committing perjury, and McGrath's people would know I lied under oath. I looked at McGrath in the dock. He stared back at me with those cold, dead eyes. And I told the truth. Yes, I treated him. Under duress, they threatened to kill my children if I didn't. The courtroom erupted. The prosecution demanded I be charged. The defense argued I was an unwilling participant. The judge called a recess. 3 hours later, they offered me immunity in exchange for full testimony about the coercion, the threats, the men in balaclavas. I testified for 2 days. Every detail, every threat. McGrath was convicted. Life imprisonment, minimum 40 years. But the damage to me was done. The medical council opened an investigation. Even though I'd acted under duress, even though my family was threatened, I'd still violated my duty to report. They suspended my license pending review. The paramilitaries branded me an informer, a tout. In certain parts of Belfast, that's a death sentence. We had to leave. PSNI relocated us under witness protection. New names, new city, new lives. Claire couldn't handle it. The stress destroyed our marriage. We divorced in 2022. I haven't seen my children in 2 years. For their safety, they don't know where I am. I work now as a paramedic in a different city, different name. I can't practice surgery anymore, can't save lives the way I used to. All because I made one choice. I chose to honor my oath instead of taking vengeance. And sometimes, mate, late at night, I wonder if I made the wrong choice. If Emma would have wanted me to save her killer. If my oath was worth losing everything. But then I remember what she said. If we can make this work, maybe there's hope. I saved Liam McGrath because I'm a doctor, because violence only breeds violence, because someone has to break the cycle. Was it worth it? I honestly don't know. Now you know the whole truth, brother. Now you know what really happened. I saved my cousin's murderer because of an oath I took 28 years ago. I chose duty over vengeance, and I lost everything. Does that make me a good man, or just a fool? You tell me. If this story made you think about the impossible choices people face, give it a like. If you believe some oaths are worth keeping no matter the cost, also give it a like. Because what matters isn't judging. It's understanding the complexity of living in places where violence never truly ends. Leave me a comment with this question, because I need to know what you think. Would you have saved your cousin's killer if you were in my place? Or would you have let him die? I want to read your answer. I want to know if I'm alone in this or if others understand. Also, tell me from which city or country you're watching. Have you ever faced a choice where duty conflicted with justice? Your story matters, and perhaps by sharing it, we help others going through the same thing. Subscribe to this channel if you want more true stories from professionals who faced impossible choices. Stories of doctors, lawyers, police officers, soldiers, ordinary people forced to make extraordinary decisions. Because these stories need to be told. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, with someone facing a difficult decision, with someone who thinks they're alone in this, because no one is alone. We're all in this together. And if you want to know another equally powerful story, click the video appearing on your screen now. It's the story of another professional who also had to choose between duty and conscience. It will leave you speechless. Remember, the only way to change society is with truth, compassion, and the courage to break cycles of violence. Not with vengeance, not with silence, but by choosing the harder path, even when it costs everything. May God bless you wherever you are. May He protect you and your family. May you never have to face a decision like the one I faced that morning in September 2019. But if that day comes, remember that there's always a path to doing right, even when right feels impossibly wrong. Thank you for listening to the end, mate. I know this story doesn't have a happy ending. I know it leaves more questions than answers. But it needed to be told. Take care, stay away from violence, and never forget, some oaths are worth keeping, even when they cost you everything. See you in the next video, if I'm still alive to tell it.